Hey, welcome everybody uh, to the to our webinar today. This is a joint webinar with Averou Immigration Services and Immigrate. Um, the topic we're going to be talking about today is how to become an effective job hunter inside Canada, based on our practice as immigration consultants and based on Immigrate's experience in being one of the leading immigration technology platforms in Canada. We've noticed that temporary international students and workers, temporary residents inside Canada, seem to be struggling to match their skills with the jobs that we feel are available in the country. And so that's going to be the topic for today. And we hope that we are able to offer some wisdom, guidance, and insights based on our experience. So welcome. Let's get started.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. My name is Allah. I'm a licensed immigration consultant from Averou Immigration Services. We have 10 years of experience in immigration in different fields such as temporary residence, permanent residence, provincial nomination program, and business immigration. We also understand deeply understand the Canadian culture and work culture because we were helping the students to enter Canada, help them. We see their journey for transition from international students to open work permit and how they land the job. And now we are helping them to become a permanent residency. We offer a free 30 minutes free consultation on a temporary resident visas who are interested to apply for different PR pathways.
Great. Let's go to the next slide.
Fantastic. It's absolute pleasure to introduce myself. My name is Michael Watkins. I'm the CEO here at Immigrate. We are an immigration services platform. So we help combine the power of technology with vetted experts who are licensed to provide the right advice for you, like Allah. So I'm super excited to be able to be here to talk a little bit about some of the myth busting in the sense of there are a whole heap of Canadian businesses who need employers like you right now. And so that's one of the things that we're going to talk about because those businesses are struggling to generate revenue because they can't find the right team members with the experience they need in the right market. So that's one huge opportunity that we'll talk about today. It's also my absolute pleasure to introduce Miranda Miller, our head of marketing. And she's going to talk a little bit about not just the market opportunity for you, but also too about how technology enables us to do things the right way. And to do things in a more effective way that hopefully can help you land a job in Canada and help you continue your career journey.
Okay. So we talk to a lot of people on a weekly basis. And we're talking in dozens of folks. And inevitably, it all boils down to employment. As immigration consultants, the end goal for the people that we speak to is permanent residency. And it turns out that work is a critical component of how to transition yourself from being a temporary resident under whatever status to permanent residency. And the fact of the matter is, these days, people are concerned about their inability to find jobs. And based on our conversations, these are some of the insights that we noticed, and we want to share them with you. First of all, it's not about the quantity of applications that you're sending. When I ask people how many applications have you submitted, it's kind of, they're saying 40, 50, 60 in the last month. And they're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall, hoping something will stick. And it's crucially important to really be more specific. You want to target the jobs that you feel will be the best fit with your experience and your skills. So it's about quantity, not quality. There are also some cultural aspects that we've noticed when it comes to job hunting. Just submitting a resume on an online sort of platform like Indeed or these jobs posting that people have up there, it's not enough. You got to get more creative. A lot of these companies have their own human resource departments. It might be beneficial for everyone to go in there and reach out to somebody personally via phone, email, or show up in person and present yourself in a professional manner and make the case. It can be a lot more effective than just submitting the resume and hoping you'll get a hit. Michael, do you have any thing to add to that HR, the cultural aspects? Have you noticed anything in your practice with this?
Look, there's definitely some opportunities when it comes to how you're writing your resume. One of the experiences that we have when we speak to employees is they really care about 3 specific things. And these aren't necessarily in any particular order. The first one is the match of the skills and experience right to get the job done? So that's first. Second one is this person going to be a good fit in the team? Are they a team player? And so there's opportunities for you to highlight that. I'll talk a little bit more about that, some tips and tricks later on with a demo. And then the third one is this person going to be able to start work on time? And this is a particular concern for a lot of employers is if you're required to have immigration documentation, if you're required to come into Canada, then that's an extra level of complexity. Now, you can absolutely flip that to be your advantage to help you secure jobs by talking about how you're working with trusted immigration professionals. You have your profile and your documentation ready to go, because that is a concern that employers have. They want to know that if they offer you a job on Monday, are you able to arrive to work? And this is where, if you're in Canada at the moment, you actually have a strategic advantage, because you don't have to worry about the travel. You just need to make sure you're guided by experts to make sure your paperwork is in order, and you can flip that script to your advantage.
Absolutely. And I think that being in Canada has another advantage. And this brings me to the Canadian workplace culture point here. Folks might be nervous to reach out to network or talk to high-level persons and be proactive. We have been here for decades. To be honest with you, in Canada, this is not a taboo. You guys should be absolutely confident to go and talk to any leadership position that you want. In fact, those people will appreciate that. There's no replacement for face-to-face interaction with a decision maker. And it might be difficult to get an appointment. Get creative. Be persistent. Don't feel like you're going to bother them or they're going to hate you, or don't feel shy about putting yourself out there, making the case. Because a resume that gets downloaded by the other side, the employer side, it's a faceless thing. They can't really get a feel for who you are. So while it is important to identify a quality position, follow their processes, put the resume in, go a step beyond and try to see if you can get a face-to-face meeting with the decision maker somehow and make an impression that way. It can be very powerful. And I can speak from my personal experience. I have done that many times throughout my career. Where if I wasn't getting a hit on a job that I wanted, I tried to kind of work around the system and bother people, pester them to give me a meeting and make the case in person. It goes a long way. And then the final point, Michael, I'll let you take this because this is your space. What are your thoughts on the limited resources to find jobs?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of shortcuts that can be achieved as well. One of the things that we try to do at Immigrate with the platform is give you exposure to the jobs that are specifically going to be hiring people who are in temporary foreign worker status, which is a huge opportunity. With that too, there's different tips and tricks on how you can use that technology to save you time so that you can be more direct with your applications. Now, as you mentioned before, there's lots and lots of applications that people are doing. Sometimes they're not necessarily optimizing that experience, but at the end of the day, it still is a numbers game. So being able to cut to the chase and be able to find the right opportunities that match your skill, create a curated list, and then leverage technology to get you a bit of an inside advantage so you can compete with that noise is definitely the opportunity we can talk about today.
All right, next slide.
Awesome. So I want to talk a little bit today about the employer's perspective on this whole thing. When you're applying for jobs, it can feel like the right job is so hard to find, and it really can be a big challenge for people. At the same time, when we here at Immigrate speak to employers, what we're hearing is a lot of people who are really struggling to find and hire the right people for their business. So we know in terms of the numbers, there are a lot of positions available out there. So right now we're looking at over 12,000 posts on Job Bank, which are open to people on LMIAs. In the first part of 2023, we saw almost 700,000 work permits being handed out. Now, that is even higher in that first 8 months of 2023 than it was in all of the previous year before that. So many opportunities. You can see on the right side of the screen here, there are many opportunities across Canada. What we want to talk about today is a little bit of why there can be a bit of a disconnect between all of these jobs available and at the same time people struggling to find the right job for them. So on the next slide here, I do just want to point out, first of all, that most skilled workers are outside of Canada. That's just the way the numbers break down, of course. There's a whole globe of people with tons of skills out there. And at the same time, the Canadian government is predicting that by 2032, all of the labor growth within Canada is going to be coming from immigration. So do take heart. There is a lot of opportunity there for you. Now, part of the disconnect or why people may be struggling to find the right job for them is that although we talk a lot about labor shortages, although a lot of businesses are struggling to find the right person, that can often be really dependent on your industry that you're in and the experience that you have. So there are industries that are really huge right now. We've got healthcare and social assistance, accommodation and food services. Those professional and STEM fields, we know specifically that there are STEM jobs for here right now, and manufacturing and warehousing. So those are some really big opportunity areas. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but it can be worth your while to decide before you're ready to apply what your path is, what career experiences you might want to get a year or two of in advance so that you are ready to apply to those fields where employers are really hiring. So I do want to go into a little bit of common challenges here that people are facing in finding those jobs, in connecting with employers. First off, there are all these positions open, but it's hard to tell sometimes whether an employer is open to hiring a temporary foreign worker. If you think about the employer's perspective and understanding, which I'm sure many people do, how hard an immigration application is, an employer might just not know or understand how to hire an international worker. So if you have a target employer that you're really interested in working with, it might be worth your while to educate them a little bit on, hey, many businesses are doing this. Here's how it might work. I'm prepared on my side to go through this process, and kind of give them that little push that you are the right person. Secondly, that employer might not have the right budget to complete those applications. So this is something that you want to verify is when you're using these job search tools, make sure you're specifically looking out for employers that are open to actually hiring someone through this process. And just being aware that not all employers are, and that's okay. There are many that will be for you. Secondly, a big challenge is that your skills might not match. So typically when people apply for jobs, they might not have the exact work experience, but they might have some relevant skills, and maybe that employer is willing to take them on and train them. What's challenging with LMIAs is that they really do require somebody to have very close experience to the requirements. They typically require you to already have worked in that exact position or field. So it's really important when you're looking. You can spend a lot of time applying for jobs that do not match your experience. That is not likely to be fruitful for you. So do take the time to really identify which positions are going to match what you've already done. You can look at things like your knock code, for example, that will match your experience to the jobs you're applying for. Thirdly, some positions are just not a good fit for you, and this can lead to frustration once you get into that position and you find out it might be poor company culture, it might not be in the location you want, and the pay and benefits don't match your experience. So do kind of keep a mindset of having standards, knowing what job is going to work for you, and not kind of sacrificing your standards too much and then finding yourself in a position where you're really not happy with the jobs that you're applying for. So those are just a few common challenges people are facing. I do want to give a few quick tips on that job application process. Obviously, we could do a whole webinar about resumes, a whole webinar about interviews, but a few really quick ones right here. When you're applying, when you're sending out resumes, it's good to note that resumes are different around the globe, and it's not that one type of resume is better or worse, but just be aware that Canadian style resumes might look different from where you're from. So do update according to Canadian resume styles. Keep in mind that Canadian resumes really focus on your experience and skills. So you can leave off the personal details like your photo, talking about your family members, that kind of thing. Focus in on your work experience. And do use tools that are available to you. We talk a lot about using tech to help your process. So, use a resume template. You don't need to make it from scratch. You can put it into AI and ask it to correct your grammar. So do make sure you're using tech to make your resume stand out. Second, standing up from the crowd. We know that every single job has hundreds of other applicants. So like Mushtaba was sharing before, you really want to find ways to connect with employers. That might be reaching out to them on LinkedIn, going to their office, but be creative, understand that there are hundreds of other great resumes coming in, and find a way to stand out. I think that's a really strong way to get your resume seen. Make sure you use your network. So might just be putting out a LinkedIn post. Hey, I'm looking for work. Does anyone have any leads? That can be really helpful.
Yeah, Miranda, I'm sorry to interrupt. One thing I wanted to add on the resume part, which you brought up, is critically important. Resumes should not look generic. They should be very personalized, and especially in the bullet points that you put under your experience. Have figures. Talk about what number of projects you worked on. What deliverables did you provide to your employer? It needs to tell a story that kind of puts some sort of meat on the bones. Don't say sort of delivered, specialize this or organize that, this and that. You want to tell a story even in those little bullet points. Facts, figures, real achievements, specific to you, will really help you stand out. Because generic language in resumes, everybody uses the same format. They kind of say the same thing. It tends to be boilerplate. That's boring. They're going to throw their resume out. They won't even look at it. So you want to really highlight specific, textures of experience in that they list.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. Anybody can put on their resume that they're a team player. Not anybody can put on their resume that, they hit 100% of their targets or they were the top performer at their location. 100%. Put that proof that you really are that standout applicant. Totally agree. The last piece of advice here I want to give before we move on is speak with an expert. So people like Alla, who is an RCIC, they're going to be able to provide you guidance on your job search, and they're going to help you make that strategy early so that from the start, you're setting yourself up with the right career path, the right immigration options, so you know where you're going. So that's a couple quick tips for you. Now, we here at Immigrate do talk a lot about that expert advice. We talk about speaking with an expert. We also talk about technology. It's 2024. If we're not using technology to make your job search easier, make your immigration process easier, we're missing a huge opportunity. So our immigration platform allows you to apply for jobs, to get help from experts like Alla, to book meetings and get that that specific advice for your unique situation. So we talk a lot about combining the expert help with technology. So I do want to give the opportunity to pass it over to Michael here to talk a little bit about how our platform works and how that can help you in your job search.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. In a moment, I'll do a live demo, right, for us so we can actually see some of this technology and how you can access it. But the three things that I wanted to cover in this demo is just reiterating that having a complete profile, knowing that you're working with a trusted expert like Alla is a competitive advantage when you're looking at applying for roles, and it will help you go through the screening process. Another big piece about this demo too is We have the opportunity to use filters and technology to help you save time. Saving time and making things more efficient for you and easier for you is a big part of what we want to do here at Immigrate. And then the last part is a single place where you can securely upload all of your documents as well. Everyone is going on an immigration journey, looking forward to PR. I myself, I immigrated here from Australia, and my whole family is looking to go all the way through to citizenship. Knowing that we have all of our documents in one spot as we progress through those different stages is a huge time saver and a relief for us as well. So with that, I might share my screen and show you a little bit of the magic that is behind Immigrate technology. Cool, and just give me a thumbs up when you can see the screen. I think we can still see the slide at the moment.
Yeah. Miranda, I think we're at the slide right now.
Can we get a hand shifting that over to Michael's screen? I don't think that I'm able to do that.
Yeah. Let me sort that out. So we need right now to have Michael on screen. There we go.
I think we're good. Right. So firstly, I'd like to encourage you to check out the link and sign up for a free account. So once you get a free account, you'll be able to connect with experts who are licensed to help you through the immigration journey and to make sure all of your paperwork is in order. This is just a view of what you would expect to see when you're in the account. There's opportunities to book meetings. There's opportunities to do points calculators for knowing your express entry scores, etc., like that. But also there's this personal profile, which I'm going to show you here. Having this personal information updated, including all of your family information, which you can see this is my family here. One of the things that our technology does is that for any application that you're processing, whether it be a work permit extension or a new work permit or a permanent residency application, once you put the information in, we automatically transpose that information to the applications so that experts like Ala can do the submission on your behalf. And that's really, really valuable to have that licensed expert to help make sure that your applications are done the appropriate way. So huge opportunity there to update your profile. Another thing to touch on is we spoke a lot about a resume. Having the opportunity to easily upload your resume, as well as other areas of evidence that will help you with the job search process, personal references, education certificates, even a personal quick 90-second video that explains who you are, why you're passionate about the role, why you'll be successful in the role. If you've got specific job skills, you can upload a job skill video. Any of the content that's here will automatically be submitted to employers who are verified Immigrate employers. So there's a big time-saving mechanism by setting up your profile for success and then letting the technology help with your application process. The third step is around job seeking success through our job board. So we have over 21,000 jobs that are hiring temporary foreign workers at the moment that are accessible through the platform. You can see quite a few here that are on the screen at the moment. You're able to search by position. You're able to search by your skill. You're able to search by location. This is all a convenience. And there's going to be some verified Immigrate employers, which you can do direct application through. And at the same time, there's also going to be some opportunities where you're exposed to job bank advertisements. And we would still recommend, if you have a specific skill and there's job bank advertisements that are available, definitely still look at applying for that. But I've got a couple of tips and tricks based on some of these stories that Mujaba was speaking about before. And I'll give you a real life example. So let's say you're a baker and you're the best baker. You've got that skill. You're looking for all the different baker jobs. There's hundreds and hundreds of different baker jobs. When you come to Job Bank, one of the things that you're going to see is you're going to see the business. Now, I've got a couple of tips and a couple of risks here that are really important. Let me start with the negative risks. One thing is that you don't know how good that business is to work with. So just like a business is wanting to find a good fit for the team, you want to make sure you do a bit of research on the business as well to make sure it's a good fit for you. So that's one piece there. And then the second risk is that when you do apply at the bottom, how to apply, these are typically just email addresses. Now, we don't know if there is a non-licensed immigration expert behind that email, but what we do know is that both the employer and yourself want to make sure that all of the paperwork is in order. So one of the things that you can do when you're talking to the employer is you can explain to them, hey, I'm really excited about this job opportunity. I think I'm going to be a really good fit. I just wanted to let you know that I'm working with a trusted immigration professional, Allah, and we've got all of our paperwork in order. If I'm lucky enough to get a job interview, I'm really committed to working with your business as soon as possible. So having that confidence to have that conversation and turn the fact that you're working with a licensed expert to your advantage helps you stand out from all of the other applications where people might make mistakes, or they might do immigration the wrong way. So one of the questions that I often get is, so then how do you stand out from the crowd, and what sort of research should you do? One of our, our head of recruitment, HR, helping our employers match people, Natasha, she saw the Immigrate job advertisement first on JobBank. She knew that there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of applicants. So what she did was she did a really simple lookup. So if you look here, this business here, you can see very easily, you can check out their website. But also what she did was she did a Google search for the business in the location. And so by doing a Google search for the business, the location details are here, you may uncover some additional avenues on how you can connect and stand out from the crowd. So she was able to find LinkedIn profiles. She was able to find reviews. She was able to find details on our website about how to contact us. And she connected. She connected through LinkedIn and connected with our senior team members. And what that did was that it got the attention on her. So as she went through the application process, she was able to stand out. Now, Natasha's a fantastic person, great skill set, but there would have been a risk that she may just not have been noticed if she didn't have the confidence to take those extra steps. And I can assure you it makes a really big difference if you're able to connect with employers and let them know that you've got everything ready to go and that you're super excited about taking that role. So definitely encourage people to do that. But outside of that, the platform is really about making it easy for you. So I'd encourage everyone to sign up for a free account today so that you can connect with experts like Allah, and so that you can have your profile set up and save a lot of time when it comes to all of the paperwork and reduce the risk of error so that your immigration process can be as smooth as possible. Our commitment to you is giving you the highest chance of success. And we do that simply through a blend of technology and expertise.
Great. Next slide. Oh, can we put Miranda as, there we go. Okay. And, building off of what Michael said, employers, I think one of the biggest takeaways, at least for me, in listening to Michael's presentation is employers want you to be ready, not just to do the job, but also to be ready to sort out your immigration matters. They want certainty. They have operations that are ongoing, and they don't want any breaks. They don't want to wait. They just want somebody to come in, plug and play. So it's super important to be ready. And Immigrate is a fantastic platform to make sure that both your work and your immigration is good to go before you start work. But once you start work, once you have your immigration matters sorted out in terms of a work permit, a lot of folks that we talk to in our immigration practice want to talk about how to leverage their job to permanent residency. So I have a few points here to kind of speak on that specific thing. And some of this stuff, you should start to think about even before you look for jobs. Yes, it's important to find a job that fits your skills, but it's also important to look ahead whether that specific job is going to put you on a pathway to permanent residency. And on that, it's important to know your NOC code. In Canada, there are jobs that are highly in demand in healthcare, in STEM, in agriculture, in the trades. and the government does a great job of highlighting which of those NOC codes they are looking for in terms of meeting the job demand. And in fact, you know, a lot of people don't see it this way, but it's also a good indicator of what type of jobs are available out there, right? Because the IRCC wouldn't be highlighting those NOC codes if they didn't think that there was a shortage of workers to fill those positions. So those NOC codes are not just telling you what you need to get permanent residency, they're also telling you what type of jobs might actually be available out there. So it's really important to go and research those NOC codes. There are a certain set of NOC codes at the federal level, and each province has their own specific set of NOC codes that they've identified. Those are the people that they're looking for. They want them to move in their provinces, ostensibly because those jobs are difficult to fill. So NOC codes. The other thing is, in terms of your pathway to permanent residency, open versus closed work permits. Okay, Ala, I'd like you to jump in here and talk to the audience about the difference between an open and a closed work permit. Why a 3-year PGWP is better than a 1-year, and what is the landscape of LMIA exploitation out there?
Sure. So 1 year, so closed work permit, usually once you apply for LMIA, you will get a closed work permit. By closed work permit, you're attached to the employer, which has positive and negative aspects. But once you are applying for, once you studied in a designated learning institute, and then they are eligible for postgraduate work permit. If you study for 1 year, you will get a 1 year work permit. But if you study more than a year, you are eligible to receive up to 3 years of work permit. So we usually recommend the students to try to get the 3 years work permit, because it will be easier for you guys to plan ahead and set up yourself to have a game plan to be a permanent residency ready, because it's very challenging and difficult to get 1 year of work permit, and then you will be eligible for your permanent residency. It's not impossible, it's possible, but it has its own challenges. With 3 years, you have more opportunities.
Absolutely. Because it's not just about, having enough time to accumulate your Canadian work experience points. You also need the runway to submit your permanent residency application and wait for those decisions to come back, right? If your status expires and the government has not, so for example, like if you submit an express entry profile and it takes some time to receive your invitation to apply. What happens if you run out of status before you get your ITA? You would either have to find a way to extend your status, either by being a visitor, a student again, or maybe if you're an open work permit holder, switch to an LMIA closed work permit. You're gonna have to find yourself, or you're gonna have to leave the country and wait for your ITA from home, right? So what a 3-year does is it gives you enough time to not only accumulate Canadian work experience, but also enough time to submit an express entry profile, receive that ITA, so that you can submit a PR application before your status expires. So really important on that. And on that point, Canadian work experience is a great way to boost your CRS score. But it's very important to understand that in order to do that, it needs to be a skilled profession. So when you look at your NOC code, the second digit on that NOC code typically highlights the skill level of your job. And if that number is higher than a 3, you will not get Canadian work experience points. Now, it also depends on the candidate and their overall profile. You may not need Canadian work experience points to qualify for permanent residency, especially if you qualify for a provincial nomination program, which there's a lot of the provincial nomination programs that offer nominations to lower tier occupations that might be in a tier 4 or 5. For example, personal support workers is a very popular NOC code for PNP programs, where there's multiple pathways to get the nomination that gives you 600 points and puts you over the edge. So it varies from situation to situation. And of course, when you sign up on Immigrate, you'll have an opportunity to talk about your specific case against these requirements with folks like us. But it's important to understand that to raise your points profile, it needs to be a skill job. Okay, foreign work experience also matters, and not just for immigration, but also for your job search. You should be really thinking about how to package your foreign work experience on your resume in order to stand out in the job market. If you have any work experience outside of Canada, don't think that it doesn't matter. Skills translate, and Canadian employers do not discriminate against foreign experience, because work is work, and you shouldn't feel shy about including that on your resume and really kind of highlighting it and being proud of it. From an immigration perspective, you get a lot of points for foreign work experience, but you need to be able to have a work experience letter from your employer ready, and also some proof of compensation, because that's sort of the combination of evidence that IRCC wants to give you points for foreign work experience. And those work experience letters, if you can leverage those into reference letters, add that with your application to any job that you might hire. That may be another unique thing that may help you stand out. A lot of folks say, hey, just do a one-page resume, but who says you can't just put like a bunch of reference letters underneath their resume and upload that? There's no rules to these things, but there is one thing that you should take away from this is, don't do what everybody else is doing. Break the mold a little bit and get creative. Throw your reference letters along with the resume. No one's going to be mad at you for doing that. In fact, it might just even, somebody might say, oh my goodness, look at this. They included their reference letters, and that just might pique the interest of the person on the other side looking at your candidacy for a job. Finally, LMIA points. Now, some people who are close to the threshold, but typically on open work permits, but they need an extra boost, should really consider transitioning from an open work permit to a closed work permit by going for an LMIA job. And of course, Immigrate is a great place where you can go and look for LMIA ready jobs, because this is what Immigrate specializes in. And depending on the tier level of your job, you can get up to 200 points. Now, 200 points is probably not going to be available to 99.9% of folks out there, because those tend to be for very high executive level jobs. But the point is that you do get extra points for having an LMIA ready job. Typically, you will get a 50 points for securing a job offer that is tied to an LMIA. All right. We can move to the next slide. Okay. We talked about how to improve your score. There's other ways also to how to reduce the threshold of points that you need to qualify. Right now, it's really tough. It's at a 549. But for specific category-based occupations, if you have some experience, the rule is 6 months in the last 3 years. In healthcare STEM skill trades, you should really consider talking to an immigration professional, hopefully us, I have this experience. What does this mean? Well, it means is you may not have to score a 549. For example, healthcare professionals have to score a 422. STEM, I believe, is at a 491. And I don't know the number for skills trades off the top of my head right now. Maybe Ala, do you remember what was the last cutoff for skills trade?
Skill trade, Ontario or federal?
Federal. It's around that range. It's under 500 for sure. So that's a great way to lower the amount of points that you need. And guess what? You don't even need to come to the country with pre-existing experience in those fields. You can, if you have a open work permit, for example, in Canada, 3 years after you graduate from school, or if you are looking to transition into an LMIA job, if you target these types of professions and work in them for 6 months, you could qualify for a program that now requires you to score less. So very important to consider that. And also in-demand occupations for PNP pathways is a big thing as well. Similarly, the way it's easier to qualify for federal level express entry by targeting specific occupations. The same thing is kind of happening at the PNP level, and I'm gonna throw it over to Ala to talk about the difference between in-demand occupations. For let's take the example of British Columbia, for example, Ala. How can people reduce the threshold of their BCPNP application by targeting what specific jobs? Speak to that.
Yes, so there are more than 88 pathways. We have 10 provinces in Canada, so sometimes it is easier for candidates to apply to PMPs. PMPs give an opportunity that for the clients to get 600 extra points under their express entry. They can apply directly through the PMPs, or they can apply through express entry and add the PMP score. So as an example, we are going to review the British Columbia PMP pathway, which is under the couple of categories such as international graduate stream, semi-skilled and low-level skilled stream. Plus, they have a health, construction, and tech stream. So once you graduated from a BC institution and then you work for 1 year, you might be eligible to apply for one of those categories. But it's very important for the people to have a consultation with us or a professional to give them an advice which knock code, which positions they should apply, because the government wants the people to try to find jobs and opportunities outside of the Metro Vancouver. So you will get maximum of 25 points when you get a job in Victoria, as an example. Oh, you're mute.
Oh, sorry about that. That's great. The other thing to note here is the last point, very important. Employer support is required for most PMP programs. And what do we mean by employer support? Now, one way an employer can support you for work is by sponsoring you for an LMIA, right? But the other way at the PNP level is if you already have a valid work permit in Canada, for example, an open work permit, which can be a postgraduate work permit, or maybe there's a specific public policy where the government of Canada has decided to issue a specific group an open work permit. For example, Ukrainians benefit from that. Some Iranians benefit from that. If you have an open work permit, all you need to do is to go to a province, get a job offer, and ask the employer. Again, don't be shy. Ask the employer, are you willing to, even in the interview, are you willing to support me for my PNP application? And a lot of times they might not know what that support entails. And we're here to tell you it's literally a form. Every province has its own form. These are called employer forms. Ontario has its own. Saskatchewan has its own. Nova Scotia has something called the NSNP 200, which is like a 14-page form. And they just have to fill out details of the job offer. They have to meet certain eligibility requirements for themselves. For example, in Ontario, if a business is willing to support your PNP application, they need to be generating revenues of $1 million a year and have 5 employees that are Canadian citizens and permanent residents. Outside the GTA, that number falls down to $500,000. Each province has its own employer eligibility requirements, and basically the form just attests to the fact that the employer meets these requirements, and they just sign it, and that's all you need, along with your job offer letter, to be eligible for these provincial nomination programs. So when it comes to leveraging work, Immigrate did a great job of talking about how you can use unique skills, unique job hunting skills, and technology to target your job search. And then we came in and we talked about how you can leverage work into permanent residency. All right, so let's move to the next slide. Okay, Miranda.
Yeah, so we did want to get to your questions today. Now, we are running over time, so we're not going to do tons of questions, but if you have any that we can answer now, please put those in the comments. I do want to take us through a couple here because I think we've got some great questions for the crew here. The first one I want to ask is, Somebody is asking, I feel nervous asking employers about supporting my PR journey. What are your recommendations?
I can jump in on that one. So first one is don't feel nervous about it. You know, an agreement between an employee and an employer, that's a partnership, and they want you to have long-term success as well. So definitely ask. It adds a lot of stability to the conversation, and you know, employers are investing in hiring. The hiring process in itself for an employer is an expensive process for them to go through. So if you're showing signals that you're wanting to be embedded in the local community, and you're wanting long-term success, that's a good news story for the employer as well.
I want to add something as well, Michael. The last week I was in a fair, and then we met the people from ONIP Ontario nomination, and then I talked to them about the employers' forms, and then it seems that there is something common with the employers, and the reasons that the employers might not supporting the employees is because there is a confusion, and that's why the government has a dedicated email address for the employers to contact them, and then they are going to explain the process, the forms, and based on our conversation, if something, they will try to come with some ideas that the employers support the employees. So this is an option from the government as well.
Fantastic. Another question we have here, most jobs require prior experience to be considered. What strategies can I use to overcome that problem? And I'd imagine, especially for people like new graduates, people starting their career, that's really on their mind. What do I do if I don't have the experience yet? So any advice for someone in that situation?
Michael, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, a couple of things that I've experienced, and you know, one example is my wife, who came over here as a newcomer as well. Firstly, there is specific experience which is mandated. So if you do need a specific 2-year certification in construction and you don't have it, you need to get that, right? But outside of that, people are also hiring for fit. So there might be some free online courses that you can do to show. There might be some opportunities where you can do community volunteerism to get opportunities for that experience to add. So definitely opportunities there. But there also might be ways you can still communicate that whilst you don't have that specific experience, you have a very closely related experience. And so making sure that that is demonstrated through your resume as well as through your supporting documentation can be very helpful.
Yeah, and also especially if you're in school, right? Like let's say you're doing a 4-year bachelor's or a 2-year program, you know, it's important to obviously focus on your studies, but just don't stay limited to just going to classes and doing your work. Like find things to do on campus, join student organizations, organize events, get active in your community, you know, volunteer as much as possible, stay busy, keep doing, you know, take on projects, finish them, do things even on the side. Like even if you have let's suppose you're in tech and you're not getting work to you know, compensated work to work on a project, start your own project, you know, build a portfolio, any type of activity in terms of getting stuff done can be highlighted on a resume. And don't be shy to tell people that, hey, you know, I don't have any work experience, but since I couldn't find work or I was too young, I didn't stay, you know, inactive. I kept doing all of these things, and I promise you, like that will really impress some employers, you know, because they're going to see, okay, this is somebody who wasn't ready for the job market or didn't get opportunities, but he didn't let that discourage you know, activity, and stayed engaged, and employers love that. You know, they want to see people who are just doers. You know, so that's one way to overcome that as well.
Awesome. Yeah. One more question here before we close out. Is there any subscription fee or limitation on number of applications? And I think this question is specifically for the Immigrate platform. So Michael, maybe you want to jump in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So to sign up for the Immigrate platform and use the tools is absolutely free. So there's opportunities to use the calculators, there's opportunities to use the filters to find jobs and apply for jobs. When it comes to the application, it depends on, each application is based on the application you're doing with your expert. So that's an as needed cost, fixed cost. But there are some surprises that we have coming up, where you'll be able to get a free consultation with Ella, who is one of the vetted experts that we have on the Immigrate platform. I want to take this opportunity to call out that, Immigrate prides itself on having the highest chance of success, and we only work with licensed RCICs like Ella that have a proven track record of successful outcomes over a long period of time, because immigration is very complex, and we need to make sure you're supported by people who know how to make it easy and can actually help you get the right outcomes.
Awesome. Now, I do wish we could take more questions. Unfortunately, we are over time already, so we're going to have to close it out. However, like was mentioned at the start, you do have the opportunity to book in that 330-minute meeting to have a conversation with Alla. So if you have more questions about your situation, I do hope you take advantage of that. So we're going to close out here. I'm going to pass it back to Mushaba just to finish us off.
Exactly. Before you go, we have some quick questions in the comments. For example, John wants to know, whether we could. Okay, so he says he was talking to HR about LMIA. She was willing to help, but she just doesn't know how to go about it, right? So again, this is something that also comes up. A lot of employers don't even know what an LMIA is, right? And they would like to know what is the best process to go on about this. We would be happy to speak to your employer and just give them our time and help them walk through what the process is and the challenges that they may face, so that they can make a more informed decision about whether or not they want to continue to support you. So I would encourage you to book a call with us, sign up on Immigrate, and book a free consultation with us. And then if you want to have your employer jump on that call as well, we can definitely help them set up on LMI, and then they can post their job openings on the platform as well. So that would be one way to go about it. And then you can show them the Immigrate platform, and they will see that other employers have also gone through this process and posted their openings on the platform. So they can be part of our ecosystem, no problem. The other question is, what has been the success rate individuals getting jobs via Immigrate? Michael, I'll let you get that.
Currently, we're sitting about 20 percentage points above the average for individual applications and a 99.5% success rate on LMI applications. So, we're really focused on helping make sure that you have the highest chance of success. At the end of the day, there's still the government representative who needs to make that final decision. But knowing that you've got a trusted expert like Alla, who will review everything with you prior to submission, is the key. And so I'd encourage you to definitely take advantage of that free consultation with Alla, so you can talk about strategy and he can help you out with your applications.
Another question really quickly is there a limit? Is there a limitation for how many applications they can submit on Immigrate?
No, there's not.
And is there a subscription fee?
No, there's no subscription. It's free to have an Immigrate account. You only need to pay when you're actually getting work done through a licensed legal representative. For example, your PR application, or for example, your work permit application itself.
Great. Hafsa asked a question that I think we addressed throughout the course of the webinar. She doesn't get interview calls for a job. What should she do? Some of the things we discussed, you should get creative. You should go on LinkedIn. Michael told a great story about one of his employees, Natasha, I believe it was, Michael.
Absolutely.
You want to finish the thought here for Hafsa?
Just really quickly, it's a numbers game, right? So my advice would be roll up your sleeves and be confident to connect. You never know what opportunities you'll get. And because of the digital world that we live in, there is Google business profiles with phone numbers. There's websites with career pages with details of who's on the team. There's LinkedIn profiles which you can connect with as well. So definitely look and research the employers you're targeting and look for creative ways to cut through the noise, because you're in Canada and because you're using a trusted expert, there are two additional competitive advantages you've got on top of who you are and the skills you have as well.
All right, great. So thank you guys. Michael and Miranda, thank you so much for giving us your time and your expertise and walking us through your amazing platform. Thank you, Ala. We will be following up with everybody who has shown interest in this webinar. I know not everybody could show up, but we will be sharing our resources, which you can scan this and sign up on the platform for free. And do you have any calls to action for yourself, Michael?
The only one is thank you all so much for your time and attention today. We wish you all the best with your journey and look forward to you connecting with Ala.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. Thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
so much.
Thank you.